Hello and welcome to the Recursion Cafe, where we play games from the discard pile. In today's game of Unmatched, we have Sunzida on the left playing against Paul on the right. Sunzida is playing Jekyll and Hyde, a solo hero with 2 move, 16 health, and is a melee character. He's the only character so far, I think, with a downside as an ability. Basically, he can start the turn as Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde, but if he maneuvers as Mr. Hyde, he takes a damage. On the right, we have Paul playing Sinbad, the sailor, who is a 2-move melee fighter with 15 health and a sidekick with 6 health, called the Porter. And he gets stronger as he gains experience from playing Voyage cards, and I think he has 6 or 7 of those. I don't play Sinbad very much, so I'm not as experienced with him, but I think Paul likes him a lot. So, all melee fighters on a big map. Technically Sinbad's home map, so that's, I guess, home advantage. Paul will kind of put the Porter in the way. It is a skirmish into an exploit, so no damage is done, and Jekyll and Hyde does not win the combat, so it does not get the move, but Paul will get the card draw regardless. Having a sidekick in a double melee matchup is definitely a plus, just to be able to body block when you need to, and to be able to flank and pin as needed. Here's a By Fortune and Fate into a feint. So that is 1 damage through to Dr. Jekyll, but no card draw for Paul. If I remember correctly, Sinbad has a fair amount of card draw anyway, so I don't think that's a great problem. So Dr. Jekyll will stay as Dr. Jekyll and will attack with a Distracted Triage. Unfortunately, the Porter wins the combat, so his effect will trigger and not Dr. Jekyll's. He gets a movement effect if he wishes, and puts Dr. Jekyll a while away, and Dr. Jekyll will then maneuver. So here is that card draw that I mentioned earlier. Riches Beyond Compare allows Sinbad to draw 3 cards for an action, and he will maneuver again and boost with the regroup. Again, allowing the Porter to get into a body block position, meaning that Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde has to boost around or find another way around to get to Sinbad if he wants to hit him. There's a Mr. Hyde transformation and a maneuver, which is 1 damage, into a Duality of Man against the feint. That's unfortunate, that would have been a 6, but it turns out to be 1 damage through to the Porter instead. The Porter's actually hanging around this game and doing quite a lot of work, so that's pretty helpful for Paul's on Paul's end of it. There's the health dial. And here is an attack from the Porter. It is By Fortune and Fate again into Madness Relents. A lovely 4 versatile from Mr. Hyde, allowing him to transform back to Dr. Jekyll, and Paul gets his card draw off. So everyone is a winner there. And the second action is another attack. Paul has plenty of cards, so there's no need to maneuver for it. Is another By Fortune and Fate into Scientific Method. Everyone gets to draw cards. Paul gets to draw 2 from By Fortune and Fate, and Sunzida gets to draw 1 because she took 1 damage there. So far Sinbad still fully healthy. Porter has only taken 1 damage. Paul discards a Voyage, which will start powering up his ability, giving him more movement, and of course making each Voyage hit harder. Jekyll transforms into Mr. Hyde and hits with a recoiling blow to no defense, so the Porter goes straight from 5 to 0, and Mr. Hyde gets to disappear off into another space and become Dr. Jekyll, meaning that the second action of maneuver won't cause Sunzida 1 damage. So that's a pretty nice combo there. Paul maneuvers, and is he going to boost in? I suppose there's no real need to. You can just keep the pressure up and kind of maintain distance. He's got the health advantage, and discards a Toil and Danger, meaning that he's now at full hand size. So Mr. Hyde maneuvers there. I believe he should have taken a damage, but they might have missed that at the moment. And it's a Forever Hyde into a feint, unfortunately for Sunzida. It steals 3 damage through over a feint, but it could have been a lot more if Sunzida was allowed to discard Jekyll cards to add 2 per card. That's one of Mr. Hyde's signature cards, one you really have to play around. Here's a Voyage to the City of the Man-Eating Apes, the damage one into a feint, so no damage done there. Well called from Sunzida. Yeah, at this point you've only seen 2 voyages, and you just have to imagine that more are coming, like this one. A Voyage to the Island that was a whale, so that is a 4 value voyage, and Sinbad recovers 2 health as a result of that. So Jekyll and Hyde is down to 8. And there is a flip back to Dr. Jekyll as Sunzida maneuvers away to redraw cards in hand. Because Forever Hyde is a discard card, Jekyll and Hyde typically wants a big hand count, and especially to keep up with Sinbad, who draws a lot of cards anyway. Here's the Voyage to the creature with eyes like coals of fire, that's a long name, into a skirmish, so that hits over the skirmish for 1 damage, and means that Sunzida has to discard a random card as well. That's that Voyage's effect. It is a Succumb to Compulsion, which isn't a very high value, so that's alright, I think. Mr. Hyde appears, and it's another Forever Hyde. It's kind of telegraphed a little bit, that one, into a feint, unfortunately. So that's 3 damage over to Sinbad, still, but again, it could have been way worse. So Sinbad on 11 health, having healed 2 from a Voyage previously. And then Sunzida will maneuver again. There may or may not have been a damage taken there, but Jekyll and Hyde is still on 6 health left. And here is an undefended commanding impact, which is less than ideal. So Jekyll and Hyde down to 1 health, and Sinbad gets to draw a card. And given that Sinbad has 4 voyages in the discard pile, he can hit pretty hard when he wants to. Here's a Calming Research, so that's health recovery for Dr. Jekyll, who I think did transform, did declare it, but didn't flip the token, and gets to filter some of his card draw. So hopefully Sunzida found what she was looking for there, and then there is a maneuver away. Paul, of course, keeps up the pressure. There's no reason not to with all of the automatic draw, and just kind of seeing that Dr. Jekyll and Hyde is close to death's door. Then making sure the board state is alright, establishing that it's Dr. Jekyll, and it's a leap away into a with haste. So Jekyll and Hyde manages to go and blunt that attack perfectly and wins the combat, so only Sunzida gets the movement effect and not Paul there. And there's another Calming Research, so that's both of them done. That's all of Jekyll and Hyde healing, which is great that Sunzida managed to get all of it, but it's still looking pretty dicey because she's on 5 health and Paul is on 11 still, and has the capability to voyage home that voyage back to get the healing and play it again. Jekyll tries to hide in a corner, but of course Sinbad is essentially the Flash at this point, so he can get anywhere he wants to. And it's a momentous shift into a Duality of Man, so it's a 5 into a 6, well defended by Sunzida there. She called it, or either she called it or she played the base defense she had. It's always a shame to use that on defense when it can hit for a 6, but at this point you have to do whatever you can. So Jekyll will continue to move off and away from Sinbad. Even just being 1 space away from him means that he has to maneuver in, because I don't think he has any movement cheats effects. But he will continue chasing and he will continue hitting hard. And here is the Voyage to the Cannibals with the Root of Madness. So it is a movement effect, but essentially it says hit for 6 into a 4, bringing Jekyll and Hyde down to 3 health, it looks like. And there is the after combat movement effects there, so a 4 move and a 2 move. So Jekyll will maneuver and will boost with Scientific Method to try and get some distance away from Sinbad, but I'm not sure there's anywhere on this map, well there's barely anywhere on this map that Sunzida can hide, and of course Sinbad can always boost if he needs to. And here is a boosted maneuver, well not even a boosted maneuver, an attack, momentous shift into a feint, well called, so that is only 1 damage in, a 3 into a 2 as opposed to a 5 into whatever else it could have been. Sunzida transforms into Mr. Hyde. Now is the perfect time if you're going to try and make it work. Unfortunately both Forever Hydes are gone, so the kind of threat options are less available. And here is a Pure Evil, that's automatic 2 damage, into another Pure Evil, that's another automatic 2 damage. So that's pretty handy to have them both in hand, bringing Sinbad down to 7, so disregarding any defense cards that he had, but it's still 7 to 2, and we know that Sinbad can hit really hard if he has another Voyage left. And there it is, the Voyage home for 7 into a skirmish, which cleans up the last of Jekyll and Hyde's health, and that, I believe, is game. So there we have it, more of an old school match between Volume 1 and Cobble and Fog. I think making a lot of the use of the Porter there at the start really helped Paul in that matchup. And it's pretty rough with Jekyll and Hyde, because being a 2-move solo melee fighter is just a difficult match regardless, to be honest. Thank you everyone for watching, see you next time.